and there's intimacy on the radio, and there's naturalness on the radio that can never be replicated on TV. The marvelous resurgence of radio as a political force in this country.
News-related radio programming is evolving.
There's a huge hole in our dialogue that can be filled by the synthesis of traditional radio and the freedom that comes from a live podcast. You're about to experience Cowboy State Politics live. Here we go. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to another exciting installment from very high above all the insipid and perfidious forms of Wyoming mainstream media. This is Cowboy State Politics. I, of course, am your illustrious host, David Iverson, firmly ensconced behind the silver Cowboy State Politics microphone and broadcasting to you from the base of the Bighorns at the Cowboy State Politics Studio in Sheridan, Wyoming. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to the program. Happy Thursday. How is everybody doing? Ken, how are you doing this morning?
Better today. Perfidious. I'm going to have to get me a newer Funkin' Wagnalls for that.
Well, you may not find it in Funkin' Wagnalls.
Are you old enough to remember the laugh-in line?
Yeah.
Put that in your Funkin' Wagnalls.
Well, welcome to the program, my friends. We got a lot going on this morning. At 9 o'clock, we're going to be talking to James Temple, who is running for House District 29. We've had him on the show, but I haven't really run him through the paces of, what he believes. Let's talk about the platform, those sorts of things. So 9 o'clock, we're going to talk to him. Also, if you happen to be in Sheridan tonight, starting at 6 o'clock, the Sheridan County Republican Party is hosting the first in a series of debates. Tonight will be the county commissioners, and it will be moderated by yours truly. By the way, Ken, do you know how you can terrify almost any politician immediately?
Well, I know where you're going with this, so that wasn't really a fair question to ask.
Well, rarely are things fair on this show.
It is surprising. And a lot of people's forte is not public speaking.
No.
Or getting up in front of people, especially when they don't know what's coming.
Yes.
I happen to thrive off of that. I was a Toastmaster for a lot of years.
Right.
And they have a segment of every meeting called Table Topics. And you don't know what's coming.
Yeah, they just pull one out of the...
They'll pull one out, and it'll say, I want you to rise and for a minute and a half plus or minus 30 seconds, tell us why you so vehemently love the Casper Star Tribune.
Yeah, oh, boy. Well, actually...
And you got to go.
It's impromptu.
Yeah.
But, that is terrifying. And the truth is, most people are terrified of public speaking. In fact, that is the number one fear. It's worse than spiders. It's worse than heights. It's worse than your wife being angry at you. It's worse than all of them. Public
speaking.
My
wife.
Well, I'm terrified of her. Public speaking is by far the number one fear. But a close second and number one among politicians is the word debate. Most of them are absolutely terrified about it, which always confused me, because when you're running for office, the job description is kind of that you are to represent the best interests of your constituents and to advocate on their behalf. And in our system, what that looks like is you're in a room with a whole bunch of people, a topic comes up, and you debate it. That's kind of the way things work. And the whole public speaking part of it. Though I will have to say there are some conservatives that I genuinely like that don't get up at the microphone all that often. Though I think that there are some major downsides to that. I mean, your constituents deserve to be heard, and they sent you there for a reason. And if you are running for that position, well, part of the game is that you get up in front of people and talk. You hold campaign events, but I know that the fear is twofold. One, you don't know what's coming, like Ken said, and the second one is having to defend your position. It's a heck of a lot easier to stand up there with a microphone and just tell people what you think. It's a whole thing, it's a whole different thing entirely if you have to defend that position. And probably a third major fear is somebody else telling you that you are full of crap and you don't know what you're talking about and give you 14 reasons why. But anyway,
I can't say as I'm very afraid of that at this point.
well, no, I mean you're not, but I mean you're a seasoned veteran of this whole thing now. I mean you probably froth at the mouth at the chance to debate your opponents.
I wouldn't say that, and because maybe not for the reason that people might think. One of the problems with debates and forums is that the same crowd shows up to all of them. There are people there are people who are engaged in the process and they want to go watch the show. They're interested, but the vast majority of people are not engaged.
No,
And that's what's frustrating. And I like to be able to get to those people and try to get them engaged.
yeah. So one thing that we're doing differently, and I guess it's not all that different. It's pretty much the same thing that the Campbell County Republican women did. Is we're live streaming all of the debates right to Cowboy State Politics. So the YouTube, Facebook, X, and the Rumble account, and so they're going to be very accessible. And so the entirety of the whole thing.
Yeah, if you want to really get people involved, I might suggest pugil sticks
Yeah. Yep.
or maybe some crappy dueling pistols.
That could be. Bad. Ooh, there you go. Dueling pistols that are slightly bent.
Yeah.
You don't know where the
Well,
bullet's
yeah.
going. But anyway, so tonight, 6 o'clock at the Ramada. You might want to be there early because I'm sure there will be several people that are there. And then on the 13th and 14th, more debates. 13th is going to be the sheriff, the coroner, and the county clerk. And then on the 14th is the big debate. That's all of our legislative candidates. So that should be a raucous time there.
So tonight, do you already have responses from folks? You know who's
I
going
have
to show up?
responses from some of them, not all of them. I do know of Christy Haswell said that she is not in town, and so she's not going to be able to make it. I find that a little convenient.
Convenient, yeah.
But whatever. I mean, she says she's out of town, so we'll take her at her word. But yeah, I was thinking about it last night, and I figured 5 for sure, hopefully more. But either
I'm just
way.
curious because all around the state, they being the other side, has notoriously
Not shown up.
avoided these situations. And of course, I'm curious about how that will happen because I've got one with the Chamber of Communists that I've been invited to, actually 2 of them on 2 different nights.
And I think ours is before theirs.
We do have some events planned already, so legitimately I'd already planned to be gone. Anyway, just trying to decide.
Yeah, well, I think that's a valid question because you're right. In Campbell County, there were three of the candidates that didn't show up. Dwayne Dillinger, I'll have to look him up, but it's Abby Angelos' opponent, John Baer's opponent, and Earl Collier. His opponent did not show up. Of note, Ogden Driscoll did show up at the Campbell County event and debate Chip Nyman. So, I mean, Augie has never been one to shy away from
No.
a debate.
No.
And then in Crook County, Zeta Anderson, Knuckles Anderson. I don't understand these hyphenated names. Let's just go with one name, shall we?
I love that one, especially when you see Zeta. She doesn't look like somebody you'd call Knuckles.
No. But anyway, her opponent didn't show up either. And here's the common refrain from all of them. And I could show you the long string of emails I have from Sheridan County candidates, but it's all, well, who is the moderator? How do we know that this is going to be fair? Who came up with the questions?
Yeah, what if I asked that?
I would.
Gail Simmons write the questions and.
Well, she is going to for the
Yeah,
chamber.
she always does.
Yeah. How is that event? How is that event fair? Okay, so it's not. But the truth is, my friends, that the moderator shouldn't matter a whole heck of a lot. Like, if you're confident in what you're doing and if the timing, the speaking time is the same, shouldn't really matter. Which, by the way, I know I talked about this a little bit yesterday, but the first draft of the Declaration of Independence, post committee, I should say, was delivered on June 28th of 1776. June 28th. It wasn't signed until July 4th. So imagine how much debate happened in those days. So I mean, 6 days, so roughly a week. How much debate do you think happened in that short span of time? I would say a lot, because there are giant sections of the original draft that were left out. The whole section about slavery, life, liberty, and property was changed to pursuit of happiness. So a lot of changes happened and a lot of debate happened. And I think that if you're running for office any year, but particularly this one, you should remember that the debate is a part of our political process. And those people that choose not to show up, well, first of all, they're big, giant cowards. And secondly, they're probably redcoats.
One thing that does make a difference in debate, and I know I'm preaching to the choir because you're no stranger to that.
No.
I would remind the audience that David was a national champion debater.
3 times.
Yeah.
Well, speech and debate 3 times, I should say.
Who the audience is
matters a great deal.
It does. And if you're in front of a friendly audience, it's easy for anybody. If you're in front of a hostile audience,
totally different
you are very tempted to try to curtail your message or to try to tailor it for who's there. And if any of you all who are going into these things are listening, that's one thing that I have learned never to do. Go in there, be yourself, shoot straight. You don't ever have to worry about what did I say to this group or that group. And you will find that you will be better respected if you come guns a-blazing. That's what I did at Chamber of Communists, and they asked me, you talk a lot about cutting the budget. What's the first place you'd start? Without hesitation, Wyoming Business Council. Jaws hit the floor.
Yeah. So on this same topic, we are also, the Open Range Record is sponsoring a congressional and gubernatorial debate on the 16th down in Casper at the Rialto Theater, which, by the way, I'm just waiting on one confirmation or non-confirmation, as the case may be, and we'll have a full set. Eric Barlow is not going to show up to the gubernatorial debate, so it'll be Megan Degenfelder and Brent Bean and in that debate. And then in the congressional debate, I have confirmations from Chuck Gray, Steve Freeze, Kevin Christensen, and Frank Chapman. So Jillian Balo said that she's not able to attend. She's got a prior engagement or whatever. Now, interesting, I was talking with one of them, and I won't tell you which one. And they were just getting some clarification on timing. And just offhand, the person said, you know what, I really enjoy these events. He said, because it keeps me on my toes. And he said, it's very different from being in a corporate environment when you're in charge. Somebody hangs a piece of red meat out in front of you, and you can just go after it. But in a debate, well, you've got to consider the audience, and maybe some things are just best left unattacked. So it was an interesting conversation.
And you'll notice, where Barlow's concerned, I'm sure he presumes that he is the front runner, and he may or may not be. I've seen polls that say both things.
I've seen it all over the place.
Yeah, but you look at that, and if he's convinced he's the front runner, and you come up against something like this, he's liable to avoid it because he got nothing to gain, everything to lose.
Yeah.
There are all kinds of games that people play about should I participate or not, and I'm guilty too. I do the same thing.
Oh, sure. Well, and here's the other thing about all the Sheridan County debates. If you don't think that if you think it's not going to get publicized who showed up and who didn't, you're wrong, because it is. And I'm not saying that it'll be derisive or anything, but I'm just going to say to give an accurate reporting of what happened, you got to say who was there and who didn't show up. And well,
Who around here does accurate reporting besides this place?
Well, okay, good point. So,
Okay.
yeah, it's going to get reported one way or another, and you're better off just to show up. I think that you owe it to your constituents, the people you're asking to vote for you to stand up and defend your position. So, anyway, man, that lasted a long time. Who thought that conversation was going to go that long?
Like a Tootsie Roll.
I know, it just never stops. Of course, it's me. So, all right, let's move on to the cow pie. Out-of-state campaign flyers launch attacks on Wyoming candidates. Now, the fascinating thing about this article is the flyers that it mentions that are really, really terrible. Those are the ones that attack the redcoats. And let me just give you a flavor of what we're talking about here. So these are mentioned. This is a screenshot I took from the cow pie article, and the one on the left, how appropriate, it says that Larson and Case, and I think that's a wonderful picture of them dressed as sheep. Anyway, voted against banning sexually explicit government-funded events, endangered children by voting against a ban on gender transition surgeries for minors, and exposed women to their radical transgender agenda by voting against protecting women's sports. So why are those? Okay, so the picture is a little derisive. All right, perhaps a lot derisive, but what about those claims are wrong? Well, and first criticism I would have about it is that it doesn't tell you where they got that information. I think it's important in any sort of political advertisement that you be able to go look it up for yourself. And we're going to show you one here in a little bit that attempts to do that very thing. But the whole endangering children by voting against gender surgeries, let me show you that one. So that is, I'm assuming, referring to Senate File 99, which was colloquially titled Chloe's Law. This is the one that bans transgender surgeries. And if you look here, the top is the House, the bottom is the Senate, and you can clearly see that Lloyd Larson voted against it. Excuse me, ayes. I've got the wrong roll call. Hold on, I'll pull it up. Make sure here. Third reading passed. Okay, yeah, so this is the eventual vote on it. So in the end, he did vote for it.
I feel better because I had, the way you were describing it, I had a wrong vote.
Yeah, well, no, actually, in retrospect, I'm right. So my point in this, apologize. You get all these votes, and sometimes they get a little backwards.
Tell
but anyway,
me about it. You ought to be on the voting side.
Yeah, no kidding. But anyway, in this case, so you can see Lloyd Larson did vote for this bill. And let me just make it bigger here for you again. So here it is, ayes, and it clearly says Lloyd Larson there. Now, on the bottom, where it said the Senate, clearly Nancy Case, K.O. Case, voted against it. So definitely right on Case's part, but wrong on Lloyd Larson's.
Well, I want to know what vote this was.
It was
because
third reading, I think.
Look at the no's in the House.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, wait a minute.
See?
So maybe I do have it. Let's go look at it.
That is not the right vote.
Okay. So, see, I make mistakes, too, just every once in a while. Let's see here.
I'm
so
going to
that
put out a flyer on you.
Yeah, well, you probably should. 99. There it is. Okay, digest. Let's go down to the bottom. There we go. Yeah, Larson JT. Yeah, so actually, you know what? You look here, there he is. On the nays.
There you have it.
Yeah, so thank you for checking me on that, Ken.
I'm not worried about you. I'm just trying to cover my own tail.
Yeah. So, okay. So on that one, Lloyd Larson did vote against it, and so did KOK. So sorry for the confusion on that. So that one, pretty accurate, right? At least on that claim. And then if we go back to it, let's see here. Exposed women to the radical transgender agenda by voting against protecting women's sports. Now, there's a couple different bills on that one. One of them is Senate File 44 from 2025. And Ken, if you'll pull that one up for a second. And that one was the one that banned collegiate sports, men participating in women's sports. And the big point on that one is, and why this one should be in the news, is the Supreme Court ruling that just came out saying that states can determine whether or not they want men participating in women's sports. But there were a number of people that were running for office that absolutely voted against that bill. And here it is. Okay, great. Can you go to the digest for me? No, that's gambling amendments. Sorry. Again, I got the wrong vote. You in 2025? No, you're in 2026.
Now I went 2026.
See, Ken makes mistakes too.
If you give me a heads up and I know exactly.
You know I don't work that way.
I know.
All right, go to 2025.
Okay, give me a minute here.
All right, so on the other flyers, it talks about school choice, election integrity, and the third one from the left, it says just because they have an R by their name, it doesn't mean they're conservative. Don't let Representative Lloyd Larson and Cale Case in sheep's clothing fool you on election day. Well, that's absolutely true with those two jokers. They do vote with the Democrats most of the time. They are among the most liberal members of the Wyoming legislature. And so, that one there, no question about it whatsoever, that they are liberal redcoats. And once Ken gets that the men and women's sports bill up, we'll take a look at that one. But the whole point in this piece, and if you read the whole article from the Cowboy, the flyers that are bad, well, those are the ones going after the liberals. The ones that Claire McFarland or Claire McDuff treats as partially okay are those that come after conservatives. And we'll show you that one here. Here we go. Fairness in women's sports. So if you scroll all the way down, all the way, there it is. Up a little bit, just a little bit to the right, to the left. No, there's the spot. Okay, so nays on it. Representative Candle, Chestek, Jarvis, Posey, Provenza, Storr, and this is the final vote. So on this one, guess who voted for it? Well, there's Lloyd Larson in there. So not exactly accurate. Put it back one more time. So if you go to the Senate, the nays on it, Eric Barlow, Nancy Case, Poisonberry Craigo, Ogden Driscoll, Kangaroo Mike Giroux, Bill Landon, and Chris Rothfuss. So there are the no votes on it. So the guy running for governor, totally against any sort of restriction on men and women's sports. Now, let's move to another kind of mailer. And this one, I have a photo of it, but let me just show. No, there we go. Okay. So look at this one. I got this one in the mail yesterday. Ken Pendergraft.
Pretty sinister looking, isn't it?
You are. But you're wrong on energy. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So totally wrong.
Show me.
Yep. And let's see. Here's a better picture of it. If you'll show the. Oopsie. I want to show that side of it. So it says, supporting legislation that would drive up energy costs, backing burdensome regulations that destroy energy jobs, and standing with bureaucrats over families. How dare you, Pendergraft? How dare you do that? But if you look at this one, look, and it's in really tiny little print, and you can barely see it, but it says HJ3. That is the one that they're using to justify all of these claims. Now, what is SJ3? So that was a proposed amendment to allow Wyoming citizens to vote on whether or not they wanted nuclear waste in the state.
Not only did I vote for it, I sponsored it.
Yeah.
Co-sponsored it.
Okay, so let me ask you this question, ladies and gentlemen. When is it ever a problem that you put a vote to the people? Is there ever a case where allowing the public to vote is the wrong idea?
Yeah, if it has to do with Article 5 Convention of States.
Well, I don't know if that one would pass either, but
no, I'm just the idea is that we are a nation of, by, and for the people. And yeah, we have a representative republic, so you have people that go in there and represent you, but occasionally they're going to want to turn back to the people, say, this is a very complex issue and so then the burden lies on people on both sides to educate the public.
Yes.
And Reliant, who is the culprit in this, there's a whole lot of money going into AFP, and it's not from Wyoming.
Yeah. Okay, so
I'm gonna say something that's gonna.
so let me just read you parts of this resolution. It says the following proposal to amend the Wyoming Constitution by creating Article 19, Section 12 is proposed for submission to the electors of the state at the next general election. And I just skip a couple sentences. Storage of high-level radioactive waste and spent nuclear fuel, vote required. A, no storage, siting, or placement of high-level radio waste shall be authorized under state law and occur except upon an affirmative vote of the people of the state. No storage, siting, or placement of spent nuclear fuel shall be authorized under state law and occur except upon an affirmative vote of the people of the state. So none of that. Well, okay, I see. I am so excited about this. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. So this is a resolution. It is not a bill. What is the difference between a resolution and a bill?
A resolution is the legislature asking the people's opinion. So we're going to put it on the ballot.
In one case, yes.
Yeah, yeah. In this case, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
You're putting it on the ballot so the people can make a decision. You're turning it back to the people to decide on this particular issue.
A bill or a law. It's not a law until the governor signs it, but a bill is a piece of legislation that is introduced in either the House or the Senate. And to be fair, a resolution gets introduced into those bodies too. But they vote on it, and then it goes to the governor for his signature, and he signs it, and then it becomes law. That means that's the law. That's very different than a resolution. Now, a resolution does the same thing, starts in one chamber, both of them vote on it, goes to the governor, he signs it, and then it goes to the people for a vote. And so when this flyer says supporting legislation that would drive up energy costs, how would allowing the people to vote on whether or not they want a nuclear waste dump, how would that drive up energy costs? It wouldn't. How would allowing the people to vote be increasing burdensome regulations that destroy energy jobs? Why would this resolution create any sort of burdensome regulations? It would not. And how about standing with bureaucrats over families?
This is exactly the opposite.
It is exactly the opposite.
Yeah.
And so the point is that, here you go, the adoption of this amendment would require an affirmative vote of the people of the state before any high-level radioactive waste or spent nuclear fuel can be stored in Wyoming.
Part of the reason I show that is that word "end" after that. You have seen the entire thing. You can pull it up for yourself.
Yeah.
The only thing this did was say, first of all, people, do you want to have a say on whether or not spent nuclear fuel is stored in this state? Do we become a dumping ground for the rest of the country? And then, number one, do you want to have a say? And then number two, each time this comes up,
we have a vote.
Do you want to have that say? So it's like you're asking the people twice.
Right.
That's my point.
Now, again, I don't think it's ever wrong to ask the people for a vote, to say, hey, do you guys want this or not? That doesn't make it, there in no way could that possibly ever be wrong, because we are a government of, by, and for the people, as Abraham Lincoln said. And so every single one of these claims on this flyer is absolutely wrong. Every single one of them.
Where's Lloyd's horse crap?
Yeah. Well, oops, I don't have that. Horse crap. I can't even play it now. You got me muted.
I do. I knew you were going to go there. We don't need it.
Okay. So anyway, now, could we make the claim that these are interpretations? It's from a certain point of view, could these be right? Well, not the first one, because this isn't legislation. This is a resolution, which those two things are different. There's no burdensome regulations in there, so that one's not true. And I don't see how you can interpret this. Unless
you happen to be the company. That would be a burdensome regulation.
I wonder if Radiant Energy is funding.
They see it as, if we're going to have to get clearance from the people, it's burdensome because the impetus, the proof lies on my ability to go out and educate the public and convince them that we are safe.
Yeah. Yeah.
which leads up a whole nother discussion. And I spent a couple hours with them and asked them a number of questions, and they never came up with the answers to the questions. They said, we'll get back to you. They never got back to me. They couldn't convince me. They sure as hell can't convince the whole public.
Exactly. Well, and so here's the question, right? How is the voter to determine whether or not these things are actually true? Well, you've got to go to HJ3 from 2026, and you got to read it for yourself. And the reason that it's in small print is so that it doesn't catch your eye. Because the truth is, this whole thing, except when it comes to my house, has a lifespan of about 30 seconds, from the mailbox to the trash can. So most people are not going to take the time to read through these. But where I first saw this one before I went and got my mail for the day is a constituent of Ken's, I guess it would be a neighbor of mine, was in the GOP office, and she said, none of this sounds like Ken. And I said, well, let me look at the bill. Nope, it's not. Now, here's a good question. Do both sides do this? Do both sides engage in this sort of negative, fraudulent campaigning?
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
Only it's justified on our side.
No, I don't think that it is. Let me give you a good example. The mailers that the Freedom Caucus got sued over. Okay, now, while I was there, and while I agree that is what that vote was about, and I think if you were there, you would conclude yourself that was probably true. The mailers that came out didn't exactly paint a clear picture because, and this is the only reason I say this, it wasn't as clear-cut as that. It was a much more complicated discussion, and the flyers made it seem like it wasn't.
Yeah, let me say this, though. The Freedom Caucus was not responsible for those flyers.
No, that was a political...
Yeah, there was a PAC aside from the... I never saw those things before they came out. I never had a vote in it. Never,
Yeah, that was a political action committee, but still a good example of, the right doing the same thing in a manner of speaking. So what I'm telling you is make sure that you look at the flyer, and if it has references on it, which it should, look them up. If it doesn't have references on it, I think I would just say disregard it entirely because they're not showing their work.
Assume, regardless of who it comes from, that any flyer is horse crap.
Horse crap.
Yeah.
All right, let me show you one that's funny. Okay, I got this one yesterday, and this one is from Secretary of State Chuck Gray. The woke mob wants boys in girls sports. Well, that's demonstrably true, but I think what's funny is, I guess over here, this guy, just absolutely hilarious, just wonderfully funny. And if you look at the back of it, I guess I can show you the back of it too. It says, Chuck protected women's sports, defended college athletes, took on the Biden administration. Okay, whatever. So there's all the campaign flyers. And, again, just be aware of what you're reading. And if it doesn't have any source citations on it, I would just completely disregard it entirely. So let's see here. The lovely Christine wants to know, isn't Agent 29 openly running on talking to the people and listening to what they want?
No.
No?
After a couple of terms, you don't care what the people say.
But I think what the lovely Christine is asking is, isn't your opponent running on actively listening to the people?
Yeah, and that we've discussed that a couple times, and thanks, Chris, for bringing that up. If you say in front of every issue, I'm going to poll my people, like a certain
like
Casper.
Julie Jarvis.
Yeah, I wasn't going to name her, but that's okay. Like Julie said, I'm going to do a poll basically on everything, and I'm just going to.
Yeah.
When you read the emails that we get, and there are hundreds of them every day.
Hundreds and hundreds.
And when you read them, you get people on every side of the spectrum. You weren't elected to do that. You were elected to do the research. People know who your character is, what your bent is, and you go do what you think's right, because we don't have the time to go and research everything that's there.
How many emails do you get every day in a session? Ballpark.
During session, depending on the issues that are coming up, 400 to 600.
Okay, 400 to 600.
Yeah, and a lot of those, are form letters from constituents, so you see the same thing over and over and over again, and a lot of them are also from lobbyists.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to sift through them to kind of get a feel for where people are at. But you're also looking for a personal letter or a personal note.
Sure.
And those will catch your eye. And then, especially if they're from somebody that you know, or somebody from your hometown. If I see one in there from Gail Simmons, I always go look and see what she's on about.
So my question is always, now wait a minute. So if you are voting according to how many emails you get, or your survey, or
you
what
could
have
be
you,
replaced by a machine.
Well, yes, but my point is, so wait a minute. You're telling me if you got a whole bunch of emails telling you not to vote for killing babies, to vote against, to vote for pro-life, that you would actually do it? Well, I can arrange that. You just let me know when the bill's coming up, and I will get you 1,000 emails telling you not to kill little babies. Is that what you're telling me?
Let's go back to Radiant, because that one is relevant to this discussion. The overwhelming response that I saw regarding storage of nuclear waste was absolutely not NIMBY, not in my backyard.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the other side of that is, well, people need to be informed. Well, whose responsibility is it to inform the people? If you want to store this crap in their yard, it's your responsibility to convince them it's safe. And they made no effort to do that.
No, not really.
None whatsoever. So a group of us, trying to be good legislators, and look at that, we called a meeting with Reliant and asked these questions. We talked to them for 2 hours. We got more questions when we were done than we had when we went into it. And the way that meeting was left was, we'll get some people who are a little bit more authoritative, and we'll get them in here, and we'll get back to you. That never happened.
Yeah, well,
because they just simply decided Wyoming's too tough, and then we'll go somewhere else.
Exactly right. I mean, that is precisely what happened there. But the whole point in this discussion, I think, is, and this is probably the takeaway from it. So before you go vote, know what you're voting on. When you get something in your mailbox that's clearly meant to mislead you, first look and see if there's any sources on there. Every time I sent out a political mailer, doesn't matter who it was, I made sure that, okay, this is where you could go to find this information. And often I would use a QR code. Okay, scan this, it'll take you right to the bill. You can read it for yourself. And if there are no source citations on it, that means that whomever sent it to you can't prove what they were saying. Because if they could, they would absolutely do that. And so if there's no sources, to file 13 it goes.
My mailers don't have to do that because everybody trusts me implicitly.
Yeah, well, even you should do that. Okay, so let's take a quick break. We're way long on this segment. And when we come back, we're really going to switch gears. Talking about a guy that conservatives really like. Turns out he's a racist. Back in a minute. The following ad was paid for by Brent Bean for governor.
This is Brent Bean, a Republican for governor. Wyoming families know what matters: law enforcement, emergency services, and supporting strong schools, agriculture, and energy production. But state government keeps growing while priorities fight for resources. That has to change. We don't have a revenue problem. We have a spending and priority problem. Vote for me on August 18th, and I'll put Wyoming priorities first. I'll return taxes to you, the taxpayer, and make Wyoming number one. Paid for by Brent Bean for governor.
Today's program is also brought to you by Morton Buildings. If you're in the market for any type of building for your property, you need to call Marcos and Jesse at Morton Buildings. Their phone number is 307-674-2532. They're the best in metal building construction, and they've been doing it longer than anybody else around. So it doesn't matter if it's a garage or a barn or maybe something bigger, like a roping arena or maybe a giant warehouse for your business. The two guys you need to call first are Marcos and Jesse. Again, their phone number is 307-674-2532, or you can check them out on their website, mortonbuildings.com. Welcome back to the program, Cowboy State Politics Live on a Thursday. I'm your host, David Iverson, Wyoming's big voice on the right. Welcome back to the program, my friends. Appreciate everything you do every time you watch the program. I appreciate it. Thank you for all the comments that you leave. Please keep them coming. And if you listen to a show, make sure that you forward it to your friends, like it, share it, leave me a review. I know it gets irritating, but it really does help.
Send out a flyer.
Yeah, send out a mailer on my behalf. Listen to Cowboy State Politics. So often, whichever political side that you're on, you tend to give your people the benefit of the doubt. And I think that that's only natural. You say, well, my guy would never say that. Ken would never do that. And it's just natural, right? You give your people the benefit of the doubt. And that also includes the folks that people on the right really like. So if you watch Sean Hannity during the week, but every once in a while we watch him, but often he has this guy named Stephen A. Smith on. And he is Stephen A. Smith, longtime sports broadcaster. And, generally speaking, he's pretty level-headed. He's not a conservative, I don't think. But he was opining on LeBron James leaving the Los Angeles Lakers. Now really, I don't give two craps about LeBron James, nor do I really know anything about baseball, or about basketball, rather. Whoopsie. So I know a lot about baseball, but not basketball. So from Breitbart News, 3 white dudes, Stephen A. Smith, stunned by Lakers building roster around white players. And I quote, "It's no secret that the Lakers were going to get a makeover after the departure of LeBron James." Los Angeles should have been celebrating his departure, by the way. But ESPN's Stephen A. Smith seems less than pleased with the makeover's racial makeup. Within 24 hours of ESPN insider Shams Charania reporting the news that James would be playing his next and likely final season elsewhere, the Lakers made a move to acquire Walker Kessler from the Utah Jazz. The acquisition gives the Lakers some assurances at the center position. However, the move also gives the Lakers another white guy who, along with Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves, makes 3 white guys in the starting 5. This makes 3 white guys too many in Smith's eyes. Go ahead and play what Stephen A. Smith says.
Where the hell the Los Angeles Lakers think they going with a bunch of white dudes? Your 3 top players are white dudes? Really? This ain't golf. This ain't baseball. Hell, it ain't even soccer. What y'all think this is? It's basketball. In NBA history, when have you seen your 3 most prominent players on a basketball team all be white? And that takes you to the promised land. Somebody got to say it, so I'm saying it. This is basketball.
You say it, Steve.
I'm not
Stop
complaining.
it. Enough of that. Stop it. Another 3 white dudes? Now, I can't imagine when that has ever worked before in American sports history, except, of course, for the 1986 Boston Celtics, who most people, including Yahoo News, say are the greatest basketball team of all time. And they're on their starting 5. Larry Bird, Bill Walton, Kevin McHale, and Robert Parrish. He's the black guy. And then next to him, Danny Ainge and Dennis Johnson. So there are 3 white dudes on the starting 5 of the 1986 Boston Celtics, who most people consider to be the greatest team of all time. Dad, if I'm wrong, go ahead and correct me, but so says Yahoo Sports. So we've got to really, really think about what we hear in the media, whether it's politics or sports or whatever. But good, show this picture, Ken. Put my screen up there. So there we go. So Bill Walton, he's on the far right. Kevin McHale is sitting next to him on the left. Robert Parrish is in the middle, and then Danny Ainge, and then Larry Bird is on the far left.
That was
him.
funny. You said whatever his name is on the far right. I don't think so.
No, Bill Walton? Yeah, I don't think he is on the far right.
Yeah.
But just pay attention to the messages that you're listening to, and most of them end up being a lot of bull crap. Let's see. We got 15 minutes. Let's go here. So, the Supreme Court ruling about men in women's sports. Gavin Newsom says that he's not going to follow that. From Fox News. Newsom's office responds to the SCOTUS ruling on women's sports as California faces ongoing trans athlete wave. The spokesperson confirmed that state law remains unchanged and boasted about Newsom's record in serving the trans community. And I quote, California Governor Gavin Newsom's office has responded to after the U.S. Supreme Court made a historic ruling on trans athletes in women's sports, which, by the way, that is such a small percentage of the population. And when you do the math, I don't know if you knew this or not, Ken, but when you look at the number of actual documented cases of gender dysphoria, that is, people who are born one sex and think that they're another sex, think being the operative word, the actual number of those documented cases is really, really, really small. It is almost the exact same number as the number of people who have actual documented cases of what used to be called multiple personality disorder. A very, 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 very small segment of the population. And, you know, one thing we discussed yesterday is I can't believe this actually had to go to the Supreme Court. But it did. Well, California now says that they're just not going to follow it. A spokesperson for Newsom's office said the Supreme Court ruling will not impact California's current setup. Quote, the Supreme Court's decision does not affect California's laws. The state remains committed to ensuring every Californian, including the LGBTQ ZXPWDS community, is met with dignity and respect, a spokesperson told Fox News Digital. A source with Newsom's office provided Fox News Digital with a bulletin saying, as Governor Gavin Newsom has the strongest record in the country on protecting and expanding transgender rights. So here we have an entire state who has said, we don't give a crap what the Supreme Court says. We're going to do it our way.
So, two things. Come on in.
There's Mr. Sturdivant.
So,
I got to get him fired up.
So, two things. Let's just assume for a moment that you're going to be wrong about the Supreme Court decision on AR-15s.
Okay, I'm not.
Assault weapons, yeah. But let's assume.
Okay.
Do you think Wyoming's current governor would have the cojones to do what Newsom did in that regard and say, that's okay, we're just going to completely ignore the Supreme Court?
I don't think so.
And the second phase of that is, what, if anything, do you think will happen to Newsom in California? Do you think there will be sufficient pushback?
I don't know. So, okay,
it's an honest question.
This is why I bring this topic up, because there is absolutely a valid principle called nullification. That those powers not granted to the federal government in the Constitution are left up to the states or the people. So I'm speaking of the 10th Amendment. And so, just without, Supreme Court rulings aside, the states can decide all of those issues that are not among the enumerated powers in the Constitution. That's left up to the states. Whatever issue it is, states can handle it. One good example of that is the Dobbs decision, where the Supreme Court said abortion isn't in the Constitution anywhere. This is up to the states. The states can deal with it how they see fit. Now, there is also what I think is a valid principle called nullification. And what that is when a state says, you know what, we're not going to follow federal law. It's against the Constitution. We're not following it. And an example of that, I think, I don't know if it's a good example, but it's an example, is Colorado and weed. So California has, and several other states too, but Colorado's the one that comes to mind first. They've said, no, we're going to allow recreational use of marijuana even out in public. Well, it's clearly against federal law, but Colorado has said, nope, we're not following it. Okay, but there nowhere in the Constitution do you see the word marijuana or weed or pot or happy grass or whatever.
Another example is a number of states or cities, sanctuary cities, ignoring immigration laws. That's another classic one. And basically nothing has ever, and that's why I asked that, nothing has ever really happened to them. And yet the fear about a governor standing up to the feds on the other side, we're afraid of that. Oh, we could never do that. They'll take away our federal funding.
Yeah. Okay, so where I'm going with that is that powers that are not specifically listed or granted in the Constitution are left up to the states. Now, the federal government passes all sorts of laws, whether it's weed or whatever. I mean, there's a book called, I think the title of it is 7 Felonies a Day. And the whole point of the book is in a given day, every single person probably commits about 7 felonies that they have no idea about.
I thought it was just a Ogden Driscoll biography.
It could be. Now, that's funny. But the federal government passes all sorts of laws, and different states have said, you know what, that power does not appear in the Constitution, and therefore we're not following it. The Supreme Court is different. When the Supreme Court makes a ruling, they say, in this particular situation, whatever it is, the Constitution says yes or no. Now, when the Supreme Court rules, that is strictly a constitutional, interpretation. Constitutional ruling. They're saying whatever policy it is comports with the Constitution. That sets it apart and aside from any other, law that the federal government passes that is not enumerated in the Constitution. So the question then is what California is doing, is that valid nullification, or is that just bucking the Supreme Court because they just don't agree with it? I argue that it's the latter. The Supreme Court has ruled. They've said, look, states can pass whatever laws they want, and no men and women's sports. So there's two different things here, right? One is nullification. That's federal law. The other one is the Supreme Court saying whatever policy you're dealing with doesn't comport with the Constitution. So, two different things. All right, let's see here. We got Mr. Temple sitting here, so let's go ahead and take a break. And when we come back, we'll see what is on his mind. I'm sure. The calendar says that it's summer, and you believe it. Well, that's just so cute. But you obviously haven't lived here very long, have you? And you probably think that the weather is just going to continue to warm up. You don't have to worry about snow or ice or 30-degree temperatures anymore. In case you've forgotten, this is Wyoming, my friend, and that sort of thinking doesn't work here. 1 minute, it could be 75 and sunny, and 10 minutes later, snow. Whatever the weather, you need a pair of socks that'll keep your feet cool and dry even on the hottest of summer days. And if you happen to run into that spring snowstorm, you'll stay nice and toasty warm. Well, your feet anyway. To get you a pair, go to the website, thebuffalowoolco.com. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. These are the finest socks that I've ever put on my feet. Are you one of those people that said something like this before Trump became president?
I have a house in Spain that is going to be ready right after the election.
Siberia, Nova Scotia.
I'm definitely moving to Canada.
Straight to hell. Iceland.
France.
Asia's pretty cool.
And has the last year and a half been more than you could bear? Well, if it has, you've come to the right place. Call my friend Rebecca Bextel at eXp Realty. She has her fingers on the pulse of the real estate market all across the state of Wyoming. Last year, she sold around $30 million worth of property. Everything from small residential properties all the way up to big giant ranches. So if you've got to get the heck out of Dodge, if you've got to be gone Johnson because you can't stand that Trump is the president, call Rebecca Bextel. Her phone number is 307-699-3519. Let me say that one more time for you in case you missed it. 307-699-3519.
I've never felt the freedom like I do. I feel stronger every day, don't you? Well, I can show you how. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. A
Cowboy State Politics is only getting stronger. This program is expanding faster than, well, way faster than the cow pie would like it. But thank you for watching. Thank you for everything you do, my friends. Welcome back to the program, Cowboy State Politics Live on a Thursday. Thanks for all the comments I'm seeing in the on the post. Keep them coming. And you know, if you got a question for the guy we're going to talk to in just a second, go ahead and post it in the comments, and we will ask him for you. So joining us in the studio is James Temple. James, how you doing this morning? Oh, try that again, Ken. Push the right
one
button,
more
man.
time. Hey, there we go.
Hey.
Good. Doing good, guys. Good to see you.
Excellent. Excellent. Glad you could come into the studio this morning.
Yeah.
So you are running for the House of Representatives in House District 29. And it's kind of a weird district. If you look at it on a map, kind of looks like the ice skating duck.
Yeah, roller skating duck.
Yep, roller skating duck. And then no gerrymandering happening there. At all. So anyway, you're running for House 29. Why are you doing that?
Well, we had to do something about the current Oh, no, wait, that was Ken. I'm sorry, wrong
Fair
speech.
Enough. Okay, yes.
You did have to because he's vacating that seat.
Exactly. Yeah, we found out early on that, you know, Ken really wanted to move to the Senate, which I absolutely support. I think Ken has done an amazing job for HD 29.
Careful, his head has to get through that door.
Look, as much bad press as this guy gets, we got to build him up once in a while. I mean, he is the most hated man in Wyoming right now.
Well, by the media, anyway.
Yeah, by the media.
If the Wyoming media hates you, you're doing a good job.
Exactly. But no, and his work on appropriations and just, he's done a great job. But somebody had approached me and asked me, you know, would you consider it? And I thought, you know, that's a big jump. That's a lot of responsibility. All right, good.
Paying off the guests. I see how this works. Is this what you've been doing lately? Paying off the guests? Anyway.
He almost didn't get it back.
Yeah.
Well. I know.
I had a death grip on that.
I started to panic for a second.
But no, I mean, it comes to a point, you know, when you sit here and watch the political climate of the state, and you really do, you know, I've told you before, I moved here 7 years ago this month, and we thought we were moving to the reddest state in the country. And once you get here and start seeing the political climate, especially at the state legislative level, you realize we're really purple in so many ways.
The legislature is.
Yeah, they're trying to take over so bad, and they want bigger government and more taxes and all of these things that government shouldn't be involved in. At some point, you've either got to put up or shut up.
Well, okay, fair enough. All right, so you used to be the chairman of the Sheridan County Republican Party.
I did, yeah.
So I would assume that means you're a Republican.
Yeah.
Okay.
Platform Republican,
What
as
is
I
that?
like to call it. So.
Okay, what does that mean?
You know, everybody wants to argue about what a Republican is. Well, in Wyoming, we have 23 planks on a Republican platform. They're not cryptic. They're very easy to understand. I support all 23 of them without a doubt. I don't question any of them. I mean, you know, we should be able to say that marriage is between a man and a woman. We should be able to say that family is the most sacred unit. We should be able to say Second Amendment rights should never be infringed, and on and on and on. Abortion is evil. We've got to stop murdering babies. You know, it goes to land rights, property taxes, you name it,
Right.
It's in there. It's not hard to understand. And if anybody gets to define it, it should actually be the Republicans that believe in the platform.
Well, I mean, this is the Republican primary election, and so you would think that the people that are running are Republicans. Now, you mentioned a couple of issues. You say you're a platform Republican, and then you believe in that we shouldn't kill babies and that we should respect gun rights. So let me ask you a question. Let's say you're successful. You go to the Wyoming legislature. You're down on the House floor. Do you foresee that there's ever a time where maybe what's best for your community is in contradiction to what's in the platform? I mean, let me give you an example. Okay, we believe in smaller government.
Sure.
Right, but maybe what's best for your district is, maybe we need I don't know, a road for a bridge or money for a bridge, or we need money to, fix a water line or something. obviously that's an increase in government. I mean, how
Sure.
do you handle that if you're a platform Republican and you got to spend more money?
I think really what you need to look at is what the fundamental role of government is. It's infrastructure is one of the number one things that we deal with. So roads, water, bridges, all of those things. And I see a lot of places where that's not being provided now and money's going other places. I really think it's more of a question of let's redirect the funds to what they were intended to be directed to in the first place.
Okay, so let's continue down that road. Now, the guy you're replacing, Agent 29 over here, one of his big platforms since he first ran for office is to get rid of the Wyoming Business Council. Now, Sheridan is probably one of the better examples of what the Wyoming Business Council does.
It's the poster child.
It's the poster child, baby. So, is Ken right about getting rid of the Business Council? I mean, it's really helped our community. I mean, we've got that whole business park north of town. I think that's a good thing. So, should we get rid of it?
I am not a fan, to be honest. The role of government should not be, and everybody's heard this term a billion times, to pick winners and losers. But, to go a little further into it, these private companies that are getting these bank loans, a lot of people don't understand that there are circumstances where the bank will not loan them the full amount against what they want, but the Wyoming Business Council will give them that money with no return, no promised return on the investment. They're basically investing the taxpayer money to take a risk on this business or the blue sky investment with no promise of return. And taxpayers absolutely should not be subsidizing private business, private industry.
Okay. All right. Let me ask you another one. Since we're on the business track of things, what's your feeling on data centers? I've been told there's a couple of them that are going in here around Sheridan, or at least they're being planned or whatever. What's your feeling on them?
Everything I've seen so far, I'm not a fan.
Okay.
And some of the big things that we look at environmentally, they're incredibly noisy, for one. So you're going to impact your environment, your wildlife, your hunting. The other thing is they need tons of water usage in order to keep them cooled properly. And water is more valuable than gold in Wyoming.
This year?
I mean, yeah, it really is. It's one of our most basic needs, and it's scarce. We don't have a supply that we can just turn on and off like everybody else. But the argument for is, well, we need them for technology. We need them. They'll create jobs. I'm not for them. I've seen nobody come to the actual public of Wyoming and say, is this a good idea? I've seen nobody come to any of these areas and say, are the people in favor of this? And that's one of my biggest gripes about it is the people are not getting a say-so in this.
Okay, so should the people have a say in private business? I mean, let me give you for instance. So let's say Ken wants to set up a data center north of town, and Ken jumps through all the hoops.
Sure.
Right? He passes all the regulatory stuff, and he's got all of his permits in order, and he's made a deal for the water. He's got it handled, and he's not getting any subsidies for it. He's doing it all himself. Is it the role of government to say yes or no to Ken?
No, I don't think it's the role of government, but I do think when it comes to the overall environment of the state that we do have to look at things regarding that. So when I was talking about things like your wildlife, the where they're going to be located, your water usage, things like that, those are things that do impact people other than the ones that are on that land. So we do have to take into account, are they going to be infringing on?
Okay.
Are they going to be violating any other property rights? Are they going to drop property values to those around them? I think those are things we just need to look at and take into consideration.
So would it be fair to say that you would be in favor of government passing regulations on private business then?
No, that's not what I'm saying. So
isn't this fun?
I know this circular reasoning is killing me. It's too early for this, David. I do think government needs to stay out of private business as much as possible. However, we do have environmental laws and things like that in place for a reason. Don't get me started on the EPA nationally. I'm actually against most of what they do. I'm not a fan of the Bureau of Land Management either. But we're talking about our communities. You know, people move to Wyoming or live in Wyoming for a specific reason. A lot of them don't want a big, huge data center right next to them. I have not heard of anybody coming into these communities and informing them, talking to them, the commissions having any hearings about them of, yeah, we're going to sell this land to this company, here's what they're going to do, and the public having any say so in it. I mean, it's really not a whole lot different than what we've got going on with YDOT wanting to put medians down Coffeen Avenue. You know, they claim that it's for safety reasons and they're needed, even though we only average 9.34 or some nonsense rate of accidents per year on that road, and they're all at less than 30 miles an hour.
Right.
But they claim it's for safety. Well, no, it's not a safety issue. It's because they want to do it and spend the money and put it here, and it's because there are other people behind the scenes in the county that are pushing for that as well. It's the backdoor deals that I worry about with things like this.
Okay, so one of the things that frustrates me a lot is you mentioned the median there on Coffeen. By the way, I'm not in favor of that either.
Yeah, me neither.
I think it's a huge waste of money. But it constantly frustrates me that government acts, and it doesn't really matter what it is, but government makes a decision, and they just say, this is what we're going to do, and you little people, you're just going to have to deal with it.
Yeah.
So if you are successful in your run for the Wyoming House of Representatives, what are you specifically, it sounds like you're pretty passionate about this, so what are you specifically going to do to, help increase citizen involvement in their government, or is there a way that you can do that?
I think we've seen a big upsurge in that, especially these last couple of years, of people that really want to be informed now and know, and people are digging and researching more than ever to find out what's really going on with issues in the city, the county, even in the state. Although I do think we have a large contingent that are more focused on what goes on nationally than they do what goes on in Wyoming. And for me, what goes on in Wyoming is more important than what goes on nationally. I do believe that we need to constantly put the word out there of what's going on, what bills are coming up, what decisions people are looking at, what the issues are in the legislature, and we need to relay that to our counties, our cities, our constituents. Ken and I were talking one day, and we're talking about, well, when you go to the legislature, you're representing a group of people. And that's true, you are, but the reason they elected you is because you hold certain ideals that they trust you to make the right decisions in those matters. So, if you've got one guy that just wants everything one way in your whole district, well, you can't just make it happen for that one guy. You've got to use common sense and what's in the best interest of the community as a whole.
But I think my question was, what are you specifically going to do to make it easier for citizens to be involved in their government? I mean, we know that, you can go to any committee meeting down in Cheyenne, and there's maybe a couple of people, average everyday Joes like you and me. There's only a couple of them in there. And so clearly we know that there's a problem with citizen engagement. So my question was, is there anything that you can do at the legislative level to help increase citizen involvement? Is there anything you can think of?
At the legislative level, as far as a whole, I'm not certain, and I really don't have any great ideas. As far as me personally, I have no problem being accessible. I mean, my phone number and email right now for campaign are all over Facebook and all of my materials and everything else.
I bet your wife just loves that.
Yeah, she really does.
It gets better. Your phone is going to ring at like 2 o'clock in the morning with disgruntled constituents.
Right, but I believe that you have to be accessible, for one, as the individual legislator, because you are dealing with a district that's yours, and you cannot ignore those people. You cannot, blow them off, so to speak. You have to be able to openly communicate with them, but I do think that you also have to be proactive in that, and you also have to post information on your social media that's going on in the legislature to let the people that follow you know what's going on.
Okay, let's move to education. Oh, Ken, did you have something you wanted to weigh in on?
Yeah, just basically for information for those that are listening, the state of Wyoming gives each legislator a stipend quarterly to communicate with the people. And it amounts to, I think it's $750 a quarter.
No, that's a pretty good chunk.
It's not a bad chunk, but if you want to send out a flyer to your district and just let them know what's going on, that's wholly inadequate. And the other side of that is nobody, especially on our side, wants to say, hey, we need to up that to $4,000 a quarter.
Yeah.
But there are programs like that where it's designed, the original intent of that was that the legislator could then communicate with his people and bring that up. But there's some work that needs to be done there beyond just the level of the individual legislator.
Yeah, and I don't know what that is, but I can tell you that when you go to Cheyenne, and if you win your election, you'll see this. That place is overrun by lobbyists, and really, when the average citizen shows up there, you'll hear a lot of chairmen say, "Well, we're going to go to the agencies first." And they'll say, well, all right, so are there any lobbying organizations that would like to weigh in? And then last, you'll hear, okay, so we've got about 10 minutes left, and I see the room is full of people, and they want to testify, so you've got 10 minutes to use, and then we're going to have to call it a day. Now, wait a minute. You just gave 30 to the bureaucrats. Why don't Wyoming citizens get to weigh in? So I think it's a big problem. I don't know what you do about it. I just thought I'd ask you.
We're starting to make some inroads into that. One of the problems is the people that show up, because you're in the middle of the day and it's down in one corner of the state, are all the same people. Nothing against Bill Winnie.
Yeah.
He comes in and
park
testifies.
A submarine in a Wendy's drive-through, man.
Yeah, I do have some things against Gail Simmons, but she's there testifying all the time on everything too. So there's a certain crowd there that are maybe technically not registered as lobbyists, but they're the same activists that you always see.
Yeah. All right, let's move to education. So the legislature passed a recalibration bill, and I happen to think that it's a good thing. So let's start with just giving your general thoughts on how the state figured up its school funding this time around. What are your just broad thoughts on that, and then we'll get into some of the specifics.
Yeah, what did we go to per student now? We were at about 20,000 per student
I think
in the
it's
classroom,
still,
right? Is it like 24 now or something
like 23
like that?
or 24,
yeah,
something like that.
I just, personally, I don't understand where a lot of that goes because education is not one of my fortes as far as knowing the classroom and the setup and the system. Sure. One of the big issues that I do have actually has less to do with the budget and more to do with what the kids are learning in the schools, what the kids are dealing with. So the administrations, I believe, are very top heavy. The administrators are making more to funding. And just like the story that you did months ago with the raise that was supposed to go to the teachers, the 8% across the board, only one county did that. And the rest of them maybe gave them 1.2% to 2%. And where did the rest go?
And to be fair, I don't remember which Sheridan school district it was, but one of the Sheridan school districts gave like a 6% raise or something like that.
Did they? Okay.
But it was not 8.5.
Yeah, the Sheridan 2 gave somewhere around 6%, and then they added some benefits. And so you could make an argument, and they certainly try to do it. And then others just say, that the expenses incurred in hiring a teacher are all figured into that. So just because they didn't get a raise doesn't mean they didn't get.
I think that's bull crap.
It double speak, frankly.
Yeah, and you can't spend a benefit. A benefit will not give you a gas tank. Fill up your gas tank or
buy
up your
you groceries or exactly.
I think it's all bull crap. Okay, so a little bit more specific. Should you be successful, my guess is you're probably going to have to vote on some changes to the recalibration bill. Now, the argument is that, with this silo, we've had to cut back on activities. And wouldn't you know, the activities they want to cut back on are the ones that I think the three of us would probably agree are of more educational value, speech and debate versus football.
Right.
FFA versus the soccer program.
Right.
So what are your thoughts on cutting activities? Should we give more money to schools so that they can have activities? Should we create another silo? How do you see that working out?
I think the spending on schools right now, and that's why we did a recalibration. It hadn't been done in many, many years, and it needed to be done, is they are getting too much money for which we are not sure where all of it is going. And when they talk about cutting these programs, you're right. I do agree. Speech and debate, FFA, all of these things are much more pertinent and better for these kids than your different programs. Of course, I know I'm talking sacrilege to the football crowd right now. Football in Wyoming is huge, but there are
Football
other.
in Sheridan is huge.
Yeah, and our guys win constantly. They got great coaches, a great team, but I don't think we should be subsidizing that either. I think there are other ways for them to get those funds if they need to do so, or they can reappropriate their money a little more responsibly, and do what they need to do. But I don't think we should be paying as the government, for the football program at any school.
So a larger view, and this is kind of the way I look at it. So Sheridan School District number 2, their budget is over half, or no, excuse me, is over 2 times what the total budget for the city of Sheridan is. It's twice what the city of Sheridan's budget is.
Wow.
And the school district doesn't have to pay for a police force. They don't have to pay for fire. They don't have to fix roads. In fact, they don't even have to pay for transportation. They don't have to pay for building costs. The state covers that. But still, it's twice what the city of Sheridan is. And you can't pay for a football team?
Right.
Well, to me, it's just a non sequitur in my head. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's absolutely ludicrous. Where does the money go? That's always the question, and it's hard to follow it. They are very good at manipulating it and putting it into, well, this is for this and this is for that. Yeah, but it still doesn't account for it. And like you said, if there's twice the city's budget. And the other thing is, why do we have 3 school districts in Sheridan County?
Good question.
Natrona County has 1, and they're much bigger than we are.
Oh, yeah.
So
by an order of magnitude.
Why are we spending all this extra money in Sheridan County on 3 different administrators and all the different principals and all the different administration costs that are involved with 3 districts? I think it's a little ludicrous.
Okay, so I have one more education question, and then I'd like to move on. The number one thing you'll hear education advocates, well, really, like any county advocate you'll hear, is local control. We have to have local control. The government, and in fact, the Wyoming Republican Party platform says the government that governs best is closest to the people.
Right.
I don't remember which plank that is, but it's in there.
It's under the Constitution plank.
Right.
Yeah.
But our education scores are pretty much mediocre. They're a little bit better than just the middle of the road. Now, granted, Sheridan schools perform a little bit better than the rest of the state, but still, we're not winning any awards here nationally.
Right.
Now, from the state level, we don't want to dictate curriculum. In fact, I don't think that we can.
Right.
But at some level, we've got to do something to make sure our kids can read. So, question for you is, where is the line between local control and the state saying, okay, we're going to have to fix this? Where is the line? I mean, when should the state step in and say, all right, we got to fix this?
Yeah, and that is a scary question, because you do have, it's not really a straight line, it's kind of a squiggle. It depends on the day and the moment. One of the issues I see is, you're right, the scores in Wyoming as a whole are not good. And I even compared the national average scores to other countries, and we're way down on the list. It's embarrassing, quite frankly. And we didn't used to be that way. Back in the 40s and 50s and that era, we were the top in the world with education. So with local control is great as long as local governance is doing what they should be doing with the funding that they're provided in order to keep our kids on the top of the heap. But at which point, when local control goes bad, which I think we've seen in a lot of counties, as far as the way these things are handled and the school districts.
Sweetwater County?
Yeah. Does the state then have to step in and say, we've got to get you back on track? Local control is not this. This is what you need to be doing. And I do agree. We don't need the state involved necessarily with curriculum and things like that. Then you've just got a socialist state-run school, right? However, the curriculum and things, I've got friends that have kids in school. My nephew's in high school right now. Getting a hold of this curriculum that these kids are being taught is next to impossible, because half of it is online now. They don't want to tell you what they're teaching them. They don't want to give it to you. So it's kind of a hard problem to solve when they're being so cryptic about it in the first place. So one, I think every parent should have full access to every piece of curriculum these kids are being taught, and should be able to go through and read it themselves and study it themselves so that they know. And I think therein probably lies a big part of our problem. Because if the parents really knew some of the things that I've heard coming out of the schools, I think there would be a huge uproar, and I think curriculum would change, which would then take our standards back up to where they need to be.
Okay, fair enough. Well, okay, so I lied. I've got one more education question. One of the more hot topic bills in the legislature, certainly from people that are more conservative or on the right, is porn books in schools. Pornography, drag queen story hour.
Yeah.
Now, the narrative that you hear from the Wyoming Education Association is this. Now, this is former President Grady Hutcherson and of the WEA, and he's saying that none of this stuff happens in Wyoming. Here, take a listen. Maybe? Okay, we're going to have to start it over because I had it muted. See, this is why Ken should run all of the buttons, and I should give him a heads up on when I'm going to play something.
But I also think it's time collectively for all of us to start pushing back against some of that ridiculous national rhetoric that Ms. Amon was talking about that we're seeing. This is Wyoming, and much of that nonsense has no place in Wyoming because it's not happening in Wyoming, and it has nothing to do with our phenomenal K-12 education system in Wyoming.
Okay, so a couple of questions. Is it happening in Wyoming, and should we do something? And if so, how do we do that?
Yeah, I believe it is happening in Wyoming, and not just in the schools, but the libraries, which I kind of tie into this whole thing because most of your libraries are actually frequented by the school children.
Sure.
For all the way from, first grade all the way up. The pornography is definitely here. I was never a fan of looking back through history in the nation of sex education being made a mandatory thing in public schools. It's the parents' right to teach their children about the birds and the bees, not the schools, other than the typical biology class, actual talking about the reproductive system. But actual sex ed, where they're doing things like, putting prophylactics on bananas, they don't need that. Mom and dad can teach them anything they need to know about that. It does not need to be in our schools. So I've got a real sore point there to start with. We don't need to be teaching any kind of sex ed or alternative lifestyles, all of this woke DEI nonsense that all of a sudden we have 67 genders. Well,
right.
If we have 67 genders, then why, when you go to get gender reassignment, do you only get to choose between male and female? I mean,
fair enough.
So I know it's there. I think part of what I was relating to earlier was the access of parents. They're kind of blocked out. We do know that a lot of directives for teachers across the nation, including Wyoming, still come from the Department of Education in Washington. We know what their agenda is, and it's not in favor of our kids. This is not the organization we want deciding the curriculum. But most of these teachers are kind of beholden to that in a way. And I'm not saying that the teachers are bad. I think we've got a lot of great teachers that are just kind of stuck in a situation where, hey, this is what we're going to teach. And it's either that or not teach. The other part of that is I actually sat in the committee, listened to House Bill 8, 9, and 10 being talked about with Senator Barry Crago.
Poisonberry is his name on this show.
Poisonberry, okay.
Poisonberry.
And listen to them talk about these bills. And one was for the grooming of children. One was for stiffer penalties, I believe. But House Bill 10 was the one that wanted to segregate adult material, pornographic material, into a section that was completely inaccessible by anybody that was under the age of 18. And he voted against it and related it to a form of book burning. At what point do you want to let a 7-year-old have access to vile, pornographic, illicit material? I'd like to ask Senator Crago that. And I was really surprised because the other two bills passed hands down. They thought it was great. You know, we had a couple of the people that were actually victims of this in there to testify. So we figured 10 would pass, no problem, get out of committee. And man, they shot that one down pretty harsh.
Yeah, died in the Senate. So, question from a viewer, and I think this was kind of a interesting one. Patrick wants to know if you support someone who reads at a 9th grade reading level receiving a high school diploma. And when you answer that, explain like how we're going to fix that.
Well, for one, we got to take into account, you know, we are going to have special circumstances where somebody just does not learn the same way as others. My actual nephew is dyslexic. He has a very difficult time still, even though he gets special help with reading and writing. It is not his strength. Now, he does great for the disability he has. But I'm guessing we're talking about just the average kid that has the normal ability to learn everything here. And no, I do not support that, even though you will find that most things in this world are kind of written to be understood at about a 6th grade level of the English language, including the King James Bible even. Even though it was in Old English, it was still considered to be around the 6th grade level. Right. No, I think these kids should have to pass these classes with the bare minimum score, and they should be held to a standard. Part of that standard, you know, my wife and I had one kid that went through the public school system, and that we saw how that affected her, so we homeschooled the next two. And when we did the end of year testing, you remember those old ow.
Wow.
Ken's,
that was my computer. Sorry about that.
Okay. I thought it was Ken goofing off over there. We used to use the old Cat 5 test for our kids because the state that we were in still required you to turn in that testing, but we used the much harder test, you know, the ones that I used back in the 70s when I was in school. We've got to have a standard that they're held to or they don't graduate. And that's part of the reason our education system is suffering so much, and we're seeing that we're so far down on the list nationally, is because we're not holding that standard. And we're not making our teachers accountable to teaching that standard. And then that translates to keeping the kids accountable to make the grades to earn the diploma. It shouldn't be given to you. Okay? That's why you go to school. You earn it.
Well, whether you realize it or not, you have at least part of the way something in common with Representative Julie Jarvis. Literacy is her big thing. Now, we might argue with her solutions, but that's her big deal. Yeah. All right, so we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to continue throwing Mr. James Temple a whole bunch of curveballs. I got a couple of them coming up he's going to love. Back in a minute.
We'll get even with you.
Are you sick to death of being told what to think? Maybe you don't even realize that it's happening. Freedom Caucus bad, big spending, big government, liberal, Republican good. Conservatives are bad and they want to starve little children. I have heard it all, my friends. We are way past the time when the news was just the news, if it ever was. But wouldn't it be nice if you had a news platform that was at least honest about what they were telling you? News on the news page, opinion on the opinion page. That's exactly what the Open Range Record is. Go to the website, openrangerecord.com. News, analysis, opinion, and investigative journalism. One more time, that website is openrangerecord.com. You can listen and watch Cowboy State Politics live on YouTube, Facebook, X, and on Rumble every Tuesday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Pay attention to all that other block-headed, Borg-like so-called news if you want. But if you want to get the real story, watch Cowboy State Politics live. And now, back to the program. Welcome back to the program, Cowboy State Politics Live on a Thursday. I'm joined by Mr. James Temple, who is running for House District 29 of the Wyoming House of Representatives. Been running him through the ringer, asking him all sorts of questions, some of which hopefully he hadn't thought of. So 2 more topic areas, and I hope we can do this in 10 minutes. Yeah, you didn't think that you were in for it this bad, did you?
No.
All right. So, big issue in Wyoming is we don't have enough houses for everybody. There's a big shortage of housing for workers, and I mean it's just a big boondoggle. But a lot of candidates are saying, well, government needs to get in the middle of this housing situation. We have to provide affordable housing. So, question for you. Well, one, should government be doing that at all? But second, if not, how do we solve the so-called affordable housing problem?
No, government should have no role in providing housing. I am just always against that. I mean, we see how well it's worked out in Teton County, right?
Right, or Chicago, or L.A., or...
But there are tons of places where we've seen this happen, and of course it fails, and you're creating just another part of the welfare state when you do that. How do we solve the problem? We let the free market do what it was designed to do. You know, we let people buy and sell land. We let people contract and build communities and do what they need to do to provide the housing. But, you know, that also relays back to part of the problem that we have with our property taxes is we're being taxed on unrealized capital gains, and we're being taxed for things that we already own. So we're basically, you know, I describe property tax as the fine that you pay for being productive. Welfare is the reward that you get for being unproductive. And I think they all kind of tie in a little bit, because part of the problem with the housing bubble that we're seeing again, like we saw in the early 2000s, is prices are going through the roof, prices are going up, but the rest of the economy is staying the same. You know, food's going up, gas going up, houses are going up, but people aren't making any more money necessarily, and they're being taxed out of their homes and things like that. But no, it's a free market issue. You've got to allow the free market to do what it was designed to do. That's why we love capitalism.
So what happens when capitalism runs amok? And what we have happening right now across the state, and this is a hard issue, you have multi-million-dollar nationwide international companies that are going around and buying up houses right and left, and thereby adversely affecting the rental market, and individuals can't compete with that. At what point does government step up and try to regulate who can buy what?
Now, and you're probably referring to companies like BlackRock and so forth. Then they took advantage of especially the COVID situation and started just buying up mass quantities. And personally, here goes the conspiracy theory. Here it comes.
Where's my tinfoil hat?
I don't know. Where is it?
Okay, all right, let's hear it.
All right, so I believe that all of that is a part of the socialist movement to take away the ownership of property. You know, one of the big socialist tenets is you can't own your own property. Well, if you have to rent from these companies, they're never going to sell it to you. You're never going to own it. So they may make it affordable for you to rent it, but you're never going to be able to buy it back from them. Where does government get involved in that? I don't know, Ken. I don't know if there's a place where government should get involved with that. I don't know how government could get involved with that because I'm still very anti-government directing the free market of what they should or shouldn't do.
I like it. All right, let's talk about another big topic. Agent 29 here's, I guess he was the chairman of a committee to tackle this whole healthcare thing. There's healthcare fraud. Ken was looking for it and looked through the whole thing. Now, there is another committee that is set up to see if we could lower healthcare costs in the state because I don't know if you've had to go to the doctor, but it's kind of expensive to go to the doctor here, which I think it is everywhere.
Yeah.
So, again, can the Wyoming state government do anything to help lower healthcare costs? Should we? Talk to me about it. How do we make it government, more accessible, or healthcare more accessible to the people? Meet the people where they're at. How do we do that?
How about let's have some competitive healthcare? I mean, how about let's stop subsidizing these agencies and making these shadow deals with them and giving them taxpayer money to run an organization that should be private to start with. I mean, every single hospital I know of is privately owned and operated, and they basically, their business model, and it's a bad business model, is the same as a hotel. If you don't fill up all the beds, you don't make your max profit, and that's kind of where we see healthcare going in a lot of directions in the country. But no, we shouldn't be dealing in the healthcare industry at all. We shouldn't be mandating anything. We shouldn't be providing it for anyone. I have an issue with the county sheriff's office here that actually spends $28,000 a month for psychiatric health care for
That's
a third-party
incredible.
out-of-state agency when the mandate in statute is that he's misconstruing the mandate in statute. And to me, if you've got to take somebody like that to jail and they injured themselves as a result of their behavior, they should be billed for it. Now, if your officer did it, yeah, county should be liable. But it's no different to me. Why are we getting involved in a system where we don't belong?
Well, I think you've just hit the nail on the head. One of the chief drivers of all of these problems, housing, healthcare, education, a lot of them, is that government stuck its nose in. And if you want something screwed up, get the government involved. I mean, it's like Reagan said. The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are "I'm from the government and I'm here to help."
Right.
We get government out of the way. I think that the free market can take over. Now, I mean, that's not to say that everything is going to work, hunky-dory smoothly immediately. There's going to be some growing pains because we are all so addicted to government spending.
Right.
And it's evident everywhere you go. Every county, every community, there's way too much government. All right, James, appreciate you being a good sport and sitting in with us this morning.
Glad to do it.
If people want to get hold of you, how do they do that?
So they can either email me at my campaign email right now, which is jtemple, 4, HD, and 29 at gmail.com. So it's jtemple4hd29 at gmail.com. Or they can call me directly on my personal phone, which is 307-210-7066. And I've got a really hectic schedule right now, but leave a message if I don't pick up, and I will get back to them as soon as I absolutely can.
All right. Appreciate it, James. Make sure you keep me updated on how things go. Well, I'm sure I'll know anyway. It's not like I don't run into you all the time. All right, we're going to take another quick break, and when we come back, I got to answer some questions from the usual crowd. Another country heard from. This is going to be fun.
You're lucky I can say 2 words together today.
The following ad was paid for by Brent Bean for governor.
This is Brent Bien, a Republican for governor. Wyoming families know what matters: law enforcement, emergency services, and supporting strong schools, agriculture, and energy production. But state government keeps growing while priorities fight for resources. That has to change. We don't have a revenue problem. We have a spending and priority problem. Vote for me on August 18th, and I'll put Wyoming priorities first. I'll return taxes to you, the taxpayer, and make Wyoming number one. Paid for by Brent Bien for governor.
Today's program is also brought to you by Morton Buildings. If you're in the market for any type of building for your property, you need to call Marcos and Jesse at Morton Buildings. Their phone number is 307-674-2532. They're the best in metal building construction, and they've been doing it longer than anybody else around. So it doesn't matter if it's a garage or a barn or maybe something bigger, like a roping arena or maybe a giant warehouse for your business. The two guys you need to call first are Marcos and Jesse. Again, their phone number is 307-674-2532, or you can check them out on their website, mortonbuildings.com. Welcome back to the program, Cowboy State Politics Live. I'm David Iverson, doing what I was born to do each and every day with talent given to me by God himself. Welcome back to the show, my friends. So I thought I was going to get through an entire episode, an entire 2-hour show without having to mention Gail Simmons. But it was not to be, my friends. No, not at all. And it's unfortunate, too, because this goes back to how we started the show. That the number one fear of wannabe politicians is debates. Standing up in front of a room and defending your position and trying to persuade an audience. And what is going to happen is that they're either going to be sympathetic to your position or they're not. But that, my friends, is the gamble that you have to take when running for office. This is why most people, when you ask them, hey, would you run for city council? They tell you, well, I don't even want to put myself out there. I don't want to do it. And Ken, you and I know a bunch of people that they just don't want to run for office because as you've said all the time on this show, actually, that had you known the workload that was going to be involved in this whole thing, maybe you would have thought a little bit different about running for office. I'm sure you're glad that you did, in some ways, but it's a tough job, and not everybody's cut out for it.
It's just another example of you don't know until you've done it.
Yes.
You can have all sorts of things theoretically. You can watch the floor debates and all those other things, but you just, until you do it, you don't know.
Yeah, and it's a difficult process. So yesterday, Ms. Simmons posted on her Facebook page, and I'm just going to read you a part of it here because this is really, and maybe the whole intent in this whole thing is to get under my skin and really piss me off. But so far, they're doing a pretty good job of that, though you won't be able to tell that tonight. Anyway, Gail Simmons says, tomorrow the Sheridan County GOP will hold a debate of the county commissioners candidates at 6 p.m. at the Ramada Inn. The invitations to the candidates came days after it was announced on Facebook. When we announced that there were going to be debates, and by the way, it's going to be a whole series of them. Tonight is the county commissioners debate. The 13th is other county level offices, the sheriff, the coroner, and the clerk. And then on the 14th, the very next day, is going to be the legislative debate. If it is announced that there are going to be debates and you happen to be a candidate for that office, is that not announcing that you are invited to that event? I mean, if you happen to be running for the legislature and it's a legislative debate, would you not assume that you're going to be invited? Of course you would, Gail. Now, at the end of the week, At the end of last week, the process was laid out by the moderator, David Iverson. Now, thank you for this comment, Gail. She says he actually is good at interviewing, so maybe his close personal relationship with a few of the candidates won't have an impact. We live in a small town. Wyoming is chock full of small towns, and people wear different hats. But Gail, I really appreciate you questioning my integrity before you've even seen what's going to happen. The truth is that if you're involved in Wyoming politics, it's actually a pretty small community, and the likelihood that you know everybody involved is actually really high. And so, first, I would say thank you for the compliment. Second, I would say that I would never compromise a debate in any way. I have way more integrity than that, and I don't really appreciate you questioning mine before you even know what happened. Now, why did I send out the debate letter after the announcement? Well, because it goes to the strategy in having a fair debate. All of the debate letters, which, by the way, in the letter I laid out exactly how tonight is going to go, down to even the smallest amount of minutia. There is no way that you can read that letter and say that it could be any more fair. Now, Gail, I assume, being the consummate politico that you are, that you've read that letter and you understand that there's no other way that you could possibly make it any fairer, and neither could anybody else.
Has Gail played any role in any political forums in the past?
I'm glad you brought that up, because often she is very much involved in the Chamber of Commerce debate. So, Gail, could I not make the same charge against you? Are you not moderating the Chamber of Commerce debate? Did you not write all of the questions? And did you not already endorse most of the very left-wing candidates that are running in this race? Did you do all of those things? The answer to that is yes, for most of those. I know at least one candidate that she's absolutely endorsed on her Facebook page. Have I done that? No. Have I made a conscious effort to avoid talking about local candidates on this show, which, by the way, has been an extraordinary effort on my part? But have I done that? Yes, I have. Because I don't want even this shadow of favoritism shown over this debate. But Gail, when you live in a glass house, don't throw stones.
I think you should mention that people might be wondering, well, I'm going to be in this debate.
Yes, good question.
Fill them in a little bit.
So Ken is running for Senate District 21 against Mrs. Melissa Butcher. And again, if you've noticed, I have tried really hard not to say anything negative about Ms. Butcher. And I completely understand why she doesn't want to come on the program, because Ken's my producer. Now, it would be entirely inappropriate for me to moderate a debate between Ken and Ms. Butcher. And so what we're going to do is we're going to have another moderator handle that portion of the debate. Similarly, it would not be fair for me to moderate a debate with my minister / good friend, Mark Jennings. And so we will have a different moderator moderate that debate. Now, of course, that's not public yet, because I believe that you send out how the debate's going to go 1 week before the debate, and which is exactly what I did. And for the legislative debate, that is exactly what will happen there. That debate letter, as well as the other county offices, will be released next Monday after the holiday. So pretty much 1 week before the debate, in the exact same fashion, exactly the same way that I did for the county commissioners. Her next comment: at the end of the debate, a straw poll will be held to determine who won the debate. As it was in Park County, I can confidently predict the outcome. Message me for my prediction. Gail, a straw poll is a poll taken of the audience, whomever's there. And I assume that you'll be there, because you wouldn't miss this for all the tea in China. But it's just polling the audience, the people who watched the debate, the people who saw all of the reactions of all of the candidates. It's going to be a straight-up poll, just like we do everything else. So you can predict your outcome however you want, but don't question my integrity. Now, one more thing. How many times have you been on my program? Twice. If I was so biased, if I was such a terrible person as you are implying in this stupid post, why did you come on my program a second time? Why did you do that, Gail? Because I'm so biased? You know what? I have had enough with your aspersions, Gail Simmons. You have my phone number. If you have any questions about the debate, you can call me. But for right now, stick it sock in it.
I think I think she kind of tipped her hand there a little bit. I can already tell you what the answer is going to be. Okay, this is a debate sponsored by the Republican Party, so the Republican Party's reputation is at line there.
Yep.
It is their responsibility to showcase anyone that wants to call themselves a Republican and come stand up there. If you're running under the Republican banner, you have every obligation to be there.
Yes.
And to make your appearance. I understand the trepidation of going there and saying, oh, I don't necessarily like the moderator. For 6 years, I have gone before the Chamber of Communists, knowing that Gail wrote the questions, knowing who the moderators were, and knowing the struggle that was going to be there, and also knowing that the press that was covering it was going to come back with anything they possibly could do. And yet I went.
Yes.
I took that risk. I did well. One time, in fact, and Mark Jennings said, I don't even know how you did that. I got effectively a standing ovation on one of my comments among that crowd. Okay? They have invited me to 2. I've never missed one in 6 years.
Not once.
If these people will not come to the GOP forum, I'll be damned if I'm going to go stand in front of your communists.
I think you bring up an excellent point, Ken. This is a Republican primary election. If you are running as a Republican, if you are seeking the nomination of the Republican Party, it stands to reason that you would show up at the Republican-sponsored GOP debate. It seems that would be wholly appropriate. Now, here's the last thing that Gail says. The questions are being developed by a committee, and assurances are made that they will not be provided to anyone in advance. Again, Gail, I said what I said, I meant what I said, and no, those questions have not and will not be released until I pull the very first one out of the pile tonight at 6 o'clock. And so, Gail, again, if you want to question my integrity, you have my phone number.
So, one other thing that I wanted to point out about what she said, and if I mentioned this earlier and it slipped my mind, forgive me. She says she's confident in who's going to win.
Yeah.
The reason is this is a Republican event.
I bet a Republican's going to win.
And only half the people there are really Republicans. And that will show when the questions, I'm just saying what you have said publicly, when the questions revolve around the platform.
Yep, every single one of them. And by the way, and just so, and I wasn't going to release this until tonight, but I guess since we're talking about it, here's how it's going to work. Yes, the questions were written by a committee of people, every single one of them. And they're not questions, they're statements. So the difference is if you ask a question, then there's a possibility that you could get an answer of, yes, I agree. And that's it. Well, the point of a debate is to hear some back and forth, to hear, the thoughts of the candidates. How do you approach this? And so the topics of the debate are all statements, which the reason you do that, Gail, and I'm assuming since you know so much about debates that you understand why, because the statements force the candidate to take a position one way or another. There's no yes or no. Okay, you have to take a position. And that provokes a discussion in the debate. So here's how we're going to do it. They're all written. In fact, I have way more questions than we're probably going to have time for. But what's going to happen is I'm going to put them all in a bowl. I'm going to mix them all up, and then I'm just going to draw the first question. So not even I know which questions are coming when. And it's going to be obvious when we get to the debate. And so, again, Gail, I'm a little bit irritated, and normally I try really hard not to let you get under my skin. But you have succeeded. And so, anyway, it is going to be a fair debate. I pride myself on it, and I would never put my fingers on the scale and sacrifice my own integrity. And so, anyway, my friends, make sure if you need something to do tonight, go to the GOP debate. Okay, so question, glad you pointed that out, Ken. So question from the audience. Senator Pearson wants to know, will the debate be recorded? Yes, as a matter of fact, we're going to live stream it to every platform that I've got. So YouTube, Facebook, X, and on Rumble. And so you'll be able to share it. And yes, it will be recorded for posterity's sake on YouTube. And you'll be able to go back and pull it up at any point. And so it's going to be a fun event. And I promise I'll be a lot calmer by the time 6 o'clock rolls around. So that being said, I've got a lot to do today, and that'll do it for today's installment of the broadcast. Have a good rest of your Thursday. We'll talk again tomorrow at the home studio. Have a good afternoon. See you tonight.